Okay. Thank you, Deepa. Actually, for anyone who spent any amount of time in the Salesforce ecosystem working with the platform, they'll know that that is a huge pain and
Reporting?
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the glaring omission that Salesforce fixed finally, and it was a huge complaint and really, really
But it's
powerful.
still not like 100%.
But it's a very, very powerful capability. So I know that it's really nice. So my name is David Thompson. I'm going to be presenting salesforce.com with the streaming API. It's a very different presentation. I'm going to be focused more on talking about some of the custom applications and unique things that people are doing with Salesforce. So a little bit about my background. I work for mulesoft. We're an integration company, been around for about 6 years. It started off as an open source technology, about 10 years old. I've worked in the Salesforce ecosystem for about 5 years. I was formerly at UCSF leading the implementation of Salesforce there, and I've done a ton of different Salesforce projects, App Exchange apps and things like that. So a little bit of background on Mule. As I said, we're open source, been around for about 10 years. We have 3,200 plus mission critical deployments. We have over 100,000 developers in our community, and it's even embedded inside Formula 1 race cars. So it's a very different type of technology. It's not really a product. We have a lot of tooling and products built on top of the actual kernel itself, but it's a pretty widespread technology stack. So just a little bit about the environment that we work in. So this is sort of the enterprise, typical enterprise with a bunch of different systems there. And so what you want to do is you want to try to integrate them all together. And if you ever try to build anything like that, you know it's not fun. And so what Mule is basically a way to centralize and orchestrate all of these systems together into a central place that then can be transferred into all sorts of other systems, cloud or otherwise. So it's a way to bring everything into a kind of a central platform. So we also have a cloud platform which is based on Mule, and what we're doing is we're actually integrating Salesforce and many other different SaaS platforms together in the cloud. So if you've ever, they're kind of, we've noticed there are a few different trends. There are enterprises that are saying we want to go to the cloud, and typically what they mean is we want to implement Salesforce. And it's usually what they mean by that. And then there are companies, most of which are in Silicon Valley, that may not have any on-premise systems. We're actually internally inside our company, we're quite like that. We have, I think, something like 15 different SaaS platforms we use. Accounting systems like Intact, or billing systems like Zuora, Salesforce. Obviously, we love Salesforce. It is definitely the best CRM out there. So a little bit about our company. We've got a lot of big name customers. 35% of Fortune 500 companies basically trust their company to our platform. For example, Intuit, just to name one. They've standardized on our integration platform for all of Intuit, TurboTax, and QuickBooks, and the like. So what is Mule and how do people use it? So again, we have over 100,000 developers. If you ever want to create services, so if you ever want to publish services, create APIs. So Salesforce has an API. What if you want to create an API? We also partner with SaaS vendors themselves to build integration applications. So essentially what we do is we partner with them and help them, or in some cases work with partners to build integration between common systems. So common scenarios that their customers want to see that they may otherwise lose sales to competitors because they don't have certain integrations. Again, publishing APIs, and then basically app stores. So you've heard of App Exchange, obviously. So folks are actually using Mule as a platform to create system or marketplaces like App Exchange. So we have a lot of platforms that we support inside our system, different endpoints that we can work with. So the demo I'm going to be giving today is project that we collaborated very closely with Salesforce, the company, on, and UCSF, so it's a hospital system. A hospital, people local probably know UCSF. And this is an example of just how broad the Salesforce platform is and where it's going. And when we start talking about, just branching out beyond CRM. So this is basically what it looks like, where we have Mule basically integrating a bunch of different back-end systems into Salesforce. And what's interesting about this is that what the streaming API allowed us to do, we had to go up against a bunch of committees, security committees, as you can imagine, dealing with patient data and security-conscious environments. They didn't actually want to, from a security standpoint, they didn't want to open up into the firewall. They didn't want to open up a connection to all of the Salesforce servers around the world, NA6 and all those guys. So actually what the streaming API allows them to do is subscribe to Salesforce and initiate the connection, so connections don't need to be initiated from Salesforce in. And in fact, Facebook was the same thing. So Facebook is using us to integrate actually Salesforce with Facebook, so with the Facebook graph and all that. I won't go too much into this because I'll demo it, but this is basically the flow of messages, kind of what's going on, where Mule is kind of orchestrating to different backend systems based on the data inside the message flow. So this was just a prototype, and I'll demo it. We are going live with the system. It's been totally redesigned, but I only have currently access to the prototype. It was redesigned by IDEO and a bunch of folks, and again, we collaborated very closely with Salesforce themselves on it. And what this is actually a system to basically bring chatter into a health context. So the problem that was identified was that physicians carry pagers, and it's often the systems they had inside UCSF to send pages to physicians weren't very advanced, and there wasn't really a way to almost collaborate around that message flow and interact with, have all the people that are caring for the patient kind of get a real-time view of this message flow around a specific patient and a case. So what we did is we kind of came in here and we built a front-end force.com a custom app, essentially. It basically lets you communicate. Let me make sure I've got. Excuse me one sec. So this is what our system looks like. A little bit developer kind of geeky. But in case you're interested, this is what the flow of messages look like. This is where we're subscribing to a new message inside Salesforce, and it's getting routed depending on certain attributes inside the message, and et cetera, et cetera. So get back to the interface that we are familiar with. So it's pretty simple, actually. It just sends a page. We're going to search for a physician, and then we're going to search for a patient. So Susan, you can search by name or medical record number. Now, one thing to point out, and this is very common with Salesforce in a lot of environments, is that if you notice these two data types, you've got a physician and you've got a patient. Well, Salesforce is not what you call master data, so Salesforce is not the master system for either of those two data types, neither for patients nor for physicians. So they have an electronic medical record system, almost like a SAP or ERP system that they use to run the hospital, and that's what you call master data. But Salesforce is being used as almost an innovation engine for the hospital and in healthcare in a lot of contexts. And so in order to do that, in order to function as that innovation engine, you need access to data. So functioning as this kind of edge innovation engine, you need access to data sets. So what we're facilitating here and is actually, on the right, we actually are integrating with the patient record system. We get a real-time feed of patients in the back end in a very arcane format, and then we pump those into Salesforce in real time. And then same thing on the physicians. The physicians come from a different system, and then obviously we're integrating with paging systems as well. Another thing we're doing is, if you're all familiar with chatter and hashtags, we're doing something pretty creative around that. So if you type in your message and say, need some, so aspirin for Susan, Dr. Vargas. Okay, so what we're actually doing is on the back end, we're enriching this message with a medication database. So it's going in and it's searching for keywords in the message itself that list medications. And so I'll tell you something all somewhat embarrassing. So the first time I presented this proof of concept, it was in front of a group of probably 25 physicians. And so I'm demoing this thing, and I'm talking about this bit of functionality here about this medication, and I said, you know, I'm gonna need some Rosafin for Susan for Dr. Vargas. Well, turns out Rosafin is a medication for STDs. It's like, this is my favorite medication.
We're still turning red.
Yeah. I mean, 25, you know. So anyway, so we're going to send this, and what's going to happen is Mule on the back end is going to subscribe to this message, and it's going to do a bunch of enrichment on the back end, and it's not actually going to post the chatter message until it's done all this stuff. And so what happens is, actually Visualforce, the user interface, is subscribing to the same streaming API that Mule is on the back end with a slightly different query. So what you're seeing, the user interface isn't going to update the user interface until the back end is done processing. So this kind of lets them watch a real-time stream of messages come across. So I'm going to send this, and you'll notice it's not there, and then a couple seconds later, once it's done, we have some aspirin hashtagged because it was discovered in the medication database. And then you get this confirmation that the message was sent. So very different use of chatter, very much using the full capabilities of the Salesforce platform, including the streaming API. And we're very happy to partner with Salesforce on this project. This is conservatively, I'll say, I don't know what's going to roll out, but we actually are planning to roll it out to 10,000 physicians in December. But you never know with healthcare. Things tend to get prolonged in committees and things like that. So yeah, that's what we have, and definitely it's been a fun project to work on, and Salesforce has been a great partner and done a lot of really amazing work at UCSF through the Salesforce Foundation. Mark Benioff gave a large grant to enable the Benioff Children's Hospital, so it's a great project to work on and be a part of. And is that it? Any questions?
Do you have the flow chart of the how it's connected?
Yeah, I'll go back to that. Yeah. So we have this custom object. It's called external message, and what happens is Mule subscribes to that, and it then immediately communicates back to Salesforce and says, "This, I've got this. It's an acknowledgement. I've got this. It's in progress." And then it routes, and then once it receives back the confirmation, it then writes back a status of sent, so that the user interface in Visualforce, when it subscribes, it has a slightly different, the way that the streaming API works, it works based on essentially SOAP queries. So what happens is you can do a query that says, select from external message where status equals sent. So the user interface is only listening to the sent messages in real time, and the server is listening to the same, basically only ones that have status new. So that, essentially back in the user interface, you've got these external message objects. There's your there's a little icon. So you basically have all the different attributes around that essentially controls the flow of messages there.
So your software resides at the client's network, or it resides at the cloud? Which one?
So we can kind of we do both. You know, I love Mark Benioff, he's a great guy, but cloud is kind of a nebulous term.
Yeah.
You know, we actually have companies that power their clouds using Mule. So it's like, you know, at some point if you want to run it in your own data center, you can take the same exact configuration and run it in our cloud or on premise. So we kind of support really any architecture people want. For most
Capable of doing both versions.
Yeah. So for most customers, we talk about center of gravity. So if the majority of your systems are in the cloud, you know, whatever 80/20 or whatever, then we say, okay, we'll run it at the cloud for all sorts of reasons, both management and speed of light issues and performance reasons. But you know, sometimes people just want to run it in their own data center, but we just give people options.
So you mentioned it's open source, so you can integrate with any system, even with Apple?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very open platform. You know, as I said, it's inside Formula One race cars. It really is quite ubiquitous in as far as the integration landscape. It's embedded inside, you know, private cloud systems like Eucalyptus. I think uses it for you know, provisioning and orchestration. You know, it's been embedded inside, you know, a lot of other systems. So it's open source, and the kernel is we mainly on the cloud we provide, you know, supported version and things like. It's kind of like a Red Hat model where Mule is the kernel, and you know, it would be Linux if you follow that analogy, and then Red Hat is kind of mulesoft where we provide a supported version of it.
So how long was that project, the duration, from the time you went in to when you actually had it up and running?
Which part? The bureaucratic part?
No, that's
Development part.
technology development.
Well, it's probably, I don't know. I mean, it's probably 6 months, something like that.
And the team size?
David, probably 10. Yeah.
On the mulesoft side, it was David.
Yeah, it was me. I'm just on. All right. No, we had a lot of internal partners, and so we all ran it it was a great project actually. We ran it very collaboratively, and as I said, IDEO came in and helped us really do a big design session, and that was really awesome actually. And, it was a good project, and you know, we're still open, and we're still talking about interesting things and directions where we can take it and things like that. So it's been fun.
David, how is this application different with the streaming API? Like, if you didn't have the streaming API at all, how would it have been?
Yeah, so, you know, I mentioned the security aspect, but I also, mainly it's you know, things like real-time updates. So we gave a presentation, so if you'll notice, you know, you can basically watch, when you click here, it's, you're literally watching a real-time stream, so you don't need to refresh the page. And you're just going to be able to see those messages as they come in, as they happen. So if you're thinking about, I mean, given that this is an instance where you have real-time messages on the back end, paging, it's all real-time communication, it makes sense then that the actual, you know, system itself supports that model without having to refresh. So other applications that the streaming API has seen a lot of success in is you know, really, well, a couple. One, you know, like call center type applications, right? So if you're with a customer and, you know, you want to be able to see a little notification that their case status changed when you're on the phone with them, or just things like that. You know, also from just a performance standpoint, it just performs better, and you use up fewer API calls than you would otherwise. So it's.
Is Box your technology partner or just your client?
Who?
Box. Dropbox.
Oh.
Just other
Did I mention? You know, we actually, they're not, was that, oh, because I was using Dropbox up here?
Connectors.
Or connector.
Oh, the connectors, yeah, sorry. So, yeah, so on the SaaS, what we do is we work with SaaS platform companies. We actually proactively write what we call connectors, basically mappings of companies' APIs. And then we partner with these companies to help them use our platform to deliver integrations for their customers. So, each customer is different. They all have different needs around integration, but Dropbox is one of the connectors we have, and we have dozens of other ones. Basically, every time we partner with a SaaS company, we come in and we say, what's your pain around integration? What are customers having trouble with, and where are you losing deals around integration? So we kind of build those solutions and then sell them as productized integration packages. For example, the Salesforce data loader, I don't know if anyone here has used the data loader. We're actually building a cloud version of the Salesforce data loader that will run on our cloud platform that's coming out in the winter release of the Salesforce platform.
So it's going to be part of Salesforce?
Yeah, it'll be like somewhere inside setup. It'll be a link to it somewhere. Like you'll go, setup, and it'll be like somewhere. I don't know yet. It'll be like here, or here. I don't know.
So is it the same as the batch loader that is on the App Exchange now?
There are a ton of products out there around integration.
Yeah, from the
Not actually
foundation.
in
It's
App
actually a
Exchange,
foundation
you're,
package.
you're right, they are in the admin menu, and there's mass update anything, and the Apex data loader, and so.
Oh yeah,
is that-
yeah.
is that
So what
what's
we're
going on?
targeting is almost a superset of this. I think you're talking about this thing, mass.
Data man,
Data management.
Yeah, so data
I
management.
was talking about a foundation app. That is,
Oh, I'm not
that is
familiar
out
with
there.
that one. No. So this data loader product is basically the one I'm talking about, where you download it and you have to use Excel VLOOKUP. Yeah. So we're trying to get rid of that. We're trying to, kind of get rid of that pain.
So then what would you use for your data files if you're not using Excel? If you use your web-based product, we're migrating data from, let's say, SQL Server database, then how would you transfer data?
So initially for this product, initially we're just focused on the very specific, for the first iteration, the first version, we're just focused very specifically on mainly initial data loads and data migrations into Salesforce. So we're really trying to optimize for those use cases. I mean, there are a lot of products out there, ours included. We have other products that will let you move databases to Salesforce or FTP and all that, and we definitely have products that we're going to do more. This is basically around the specific pain of importing multiple objects into Salesforce and doing data validation and things like that. So we're just going to really focus on that use case initially, and and then kind of iterate from there. Listen to the community, ask people what they want, gather ideas, that type of thing. But it's kind of an opportunity for us. Basically, we're just going to kind of, it's literally, I hated the data loader. That's really how it started. I mean, I loved it. I've used it for years, don't get me wrong. But I just
It's okay, but you know how the data loader started. It was someone in Salesforce that just couldn't take it anymore and built the data loader.
Yeah, so so data loader, it's a workhorse. I mean, so this is a true story. I won't name names, but I was at the way I came to mulesoft was I was at Dreamforce. It was a couple of years ago, and I was walking around and I was like, "What are you guys doing to integrate Salesforce together?" And the number of answers I heard was just unbelievable. I mean, it really is. And then one company in particular said, "Well, we have 42 Salesforce orgs." Okay, not kidding, 42 Salesforce orgs. And they had a gigantic cluster, Windows cluster of headless data loaders running batch processes. And I was like, now I've heard everything. That's just unbelievable. So, so I mean, data loader, it's kind of a workhorse again, and there's a reason why it's taken so long. And I can't really speculate, but Salesforce, all the reasons why, but Salesforce has basically created a program to try to replace the data loader. I'm guessing what happened is if they really tried to enhance it too much more, they would really be entering into our space. And I think maybe they'll get there eventually, or maybe this is their way of learning more about that space. And but I think this is a way for them to get partners to sort of fill that gap. It doesn't have has an unsupported Mac version, and there are a lot of other things around, pains around it. So again, the first version, we're just going to focus on that, and then we're going to start iterating, and we're going to have like scheduled FTP stuff and database stuff and things like that. But it was really a way just to kind of also, it's a way for us to showcase really what our cloud platform can do. It was just released beginning of the year officially, and so we're kind of, there are all these cloud platforms as a service out there, and we have one too, focused around integration. So we wanted to show, okay, well, if you're using a Salesforce or a NetSuite, and you've got these really hardcore industrial strength cloud platforms, if you're going to do integration, why wouldn't you want the same thing that's running your integration logic? So we kind of talk about APIs as almost a do-it-yourself kit for customers. There's a ton that needs to go on between two APIs, and that's really what we do. All right, anything else? All right, thanks a lot, and thanks very much,
Yeah, thank you.
David, for hosting and running.
So we've got shirts and
Oh yeah.
donkeys and all kinds
Yeah.
Oh my God.
really donkeys.
So Mule, the name Mule came from our founder that wanted to take the donkey work out of integration. And we thought about changing the name of the company, and there was such an outrage among our developer community. They're like, no, we love the Mule, so we just
Embraced it.